Hello guys and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 240. Did you guys see that new introduction? We showcased it last week and absolutely love it. I hope that you guys love it as much as we do. I think it's very cute and also funny with that little humor in the end with those guys just running across the screen. Um, just double checking, just double checking here that nothing actually bugged out. No, it seems like the video and the song was properly being played. Nice. I was very afraid to be messing that part up, but we got it. Let me introduce myself. I am Annie, or also known as Annie Fuchsia, and I'm a full-time streamer on Twitch. I do this show every week together with my lovely co-host, Perculia.
I run Wowhead. I oversee all the news and guides and tool updates like the Soulbind calculator. And it's always really nice to do something in front of the camera instead of just doing things behind the scenes, once a week to talk about what is new and exciting on the site with you all. We have a lot of news going on from a lot of like serious systems updates in Shadowlands to really fluffy ones like new hunter tames, and then even some business news with Blizzard and competitive salaries. So yeah, why don't we start with all of the Shadowlands news? And first up, I think we should talk about a really touching tribute that Blizzard put into the game.
Indeed. And the tribute we are talking about is of Rekful, who recently passed away. And Blizzard already had a part of Rekful in the game as a character in Borealis. That NPC has been in the game, I believe, since BFA launched, right?
Mhm.
Since
Yeah.
Borealis was made, the NPC was put there. With that already being a representation of Rekful, also known as Byron, a lot of people did not expect Blizzard to put in anything else for him, although people were still hoping that they would. And it seems like Rekful has now been found on the beta as a rogue trainer. So let's show you
Yeah.
guys a picture of how it looks like.
It's really touching because there's a lot of unique details surrounding it, and while the NPC in BFA could be seen as like a tribute to, the actual person, the version of the NPC that's called Reckful pays tribute to his WoW persona, and there are lots of little details that make it special. So, for example, he says that he doesn't train assassination rogues, and that's because he was, famous for uh, ignoring assassination when it was like the popular spec, even go so far as to not have certain ranks trained to show that
Mm-hmm.
you could, do well with other specs.
Mm-hmm.
Or usually rogue trainers are in Old Town, but he's in the Cathedral of Light, which is where many players traveled to upon news of his passing to pay tribute to him. So there are lots of little thoughts in it. Like another thing is that you can say it's really nice to see him again. You can hug him, and the character will hug you back. At one point, the character can gain wings. There's a lot of really nice, thoughtful details. So it's not just, an NPC that looks like the character. It's a lot, very thoughtful. It's very, very touching as people kept finding more and more little tributes to the NPC.
Mm-hmm. Just showing some screenshots here of people who have tried it out on the beta and shared with us. When they type hug Rekful, he hugs back, and if you type love Rekful, it also says that he loves back. So it's really touching. It's really nice how they put so much detail in it, like Perk said, with even the assassination perspective of it. He, as you can see in this dialogue here, he says that he doesn't train assassination rogues, and here we have an old screenshot actually, where he shows that he was able to get rank one gladiator without actually even training the mutilate ability, just to make it very clear that he doesn't need to play with the meta in order to be able to achieve something as difficult as that. So it's really nice that all those little details were put into thought, and I believe the transmog on the NPC itself is also his transmog, right?
Yeah, it's the season 3 arena, the vengeful tier 6 recolor.
Mm-hmm.
Um it's the blue recolor of the set you could get in Black Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think like the detail that really just stuck out to me the most was how uh the trainer is in the cathedral. Because the rest of the rogues are off in Old Town, and usually the cathedral is where you have, like the priest trainers
Mm-hmm.
and like the first aid trainer, but because it was such a special place where everyone gathered to pay tribute to him, it's really fitting that his character is there as well.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. I like what they did with that, touching all those little details.
Yeah, and it was sort of in a repeat of what happened when there was news of his passing. As soon as this NPC was found, so many people logged into the beta and started going up to Reckful and paying tribute to the NPC in the cathedral again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like the NPC was just like mobbed by people going up to him and emoting him. So
Mm-hmm.
it was really touching seeing that happen again.
Mm-hmm.
How the community banded together
Mm-hmm.
and went back to the cathedral.
Yeah, like you said, it happened again because we did that before. We most of us who learned about this on that day, who were by a PC and able to log in, myself included, we logged in, went to the cathedral, and there were tons and tons of people there, just making a pathway and just kneeling and just coming together to uh, appreciate what he has done to not just in the streaming world, but in the World of Warcraft world especially. That's why people logged into World of Warcraft and not, a different kind of game or a different kind of
Hmm.
stream. It was in World of Warcraft. He's just such a huge pillar in what World of Warcraft has become, and it was really nice to see people get together for that as a tribute at the cathedral. And I
Yeah.
remember even the opposite faction being there too. I've heard the Horde faction can even now even interact with him if they do manage to get themselves into Stormwind, but I haven't confirmed it myself.
That's a really neat detail. Like I know when they were paying tribute, some of the Horde gathered in the equivalent place in Orgrimmar, but it just wasn't exactly the same. And yeah,
No.
I mean, I did see screenshots of, you'd have the Alliance lined up on one side and then the Horde lined up on another
Mm-hmm.
in the cathedral, paying
Mm-hmm.
tribute and not killing each other, just, all sitting there peacefully.
Yep.
So that is fitting that he would be, friendly to the Horde as well.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
So yeah, that just
Mm-hmm.
was like a really positive note to
Mm-hmm.
start the show off on. And yeah, moving into some systems things that came up this week. We don't like get into every systems update since a lot of it can be specialized, like Shadow Priest changes. But there were a lot of really general system updates that I think are worth talking about on the show, such as the Heirloom Revamp. We finally
Yep.
learned what the deal is with that.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned a couple weeks ago how, or maybe it's been a month even, how the heirlooms have been um, told to remove all the experience bonuses. And a lot of people were, not happy about this because they spent a lot of gold specifically for the heirloom pieces that give experience bonus. And now being told that there no longer is any experience bonus on them felt like a punch, after spending all that effort to actually get the pieces and the upgrades. Back then even I remember Perk was mentioning how there must be a reason for this, or not a reason but rather some kind of way to make the blow not feel so hard.
Yeah, like
And
replacement thing.
yeah, and I guess this is what it is. So I'll show you guys the little list of here of the set bonuses apparently, which now comes with these heirlooms.
Yeah, so instead of each heirloom having like a unique perk, they're part of like a tier set, and if you wear more of them, you unlock different bonuses.
Mm-hmm. I find the first
And
one quite interesting.
the rested experience consumed one.
Yeah, but I think it should be a lot higher.
Yeah, it's so these are sort of interesting because like do they feel that good? Because we've seen a lot of discussion that it doesn't really feel that great, especially if you are, going to play in one setting, or if you're playing at the start of Shadowlands, you may not really
Want to take a
benefit
break?
from this
Yeah.
rested experience bonus, and like it doesn't make you feel hype as you're playing. It's just something that passively, happens in the background. It's not like super creative.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And honestly, looking at all the other ones, they sound even less interesting to me.
Yeah, like I think the burst of knowledge one sort of has potential, but like increases your out of combat regeneration. Like, I mean, we're not in classic WoW. This isn't, you're not being mauled to death as you're leveling. Like, it's not very, it doesn't really seem to offer like that much of a benefit.
Uh huh.
Um, like it doesn't really, the mobs are not really hitting harder in Shadow, as you're re-leveling in the expansion.
I think even
And
in combat, most of us just stay full HP, full mana, anyways. So
yeah.
having out of combat regeneration is completely useless.
Yeah, I mean, I get that Blizzard doesn't want to add something like super OP and unique, because then you run into the issue of, oh, I hit max level and now my character feels weaker when I have to take the heirloom off. And you don't want to like be in that
Mm-hmm.
loop again where people were like, oh, I lost my artifact, now my class is boring as I'm leveling. But I think that you could have replaced them with things that are cool but only have like more benefits as you are leveling.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like maybe like some sort of like fall damage or movement
Fall
speed
damage is a great one. Movement speed is another
type
great
boost.
one. Mm-hmm.
Like maybe if you don't want people to feel bad, like if you lose it at max level, maybe when the heirloom bonus no longer works, you could then like unlock an enchant where you could apply it to your max level gear, so it doesn't feel like you're, losing something unique.
Mm-hmm. Maybe teleports, maybe reducing Hearthstone cooldown. Like all these things actually help when you're leveling. I remember, especially when leveling something that's not a mage, you have to think twice where you put your Hearthstone because you want it to be efficient with your leveling. If you're not leveling through dungeons, I mean, if you're leveling through questing, then where you put your Hearthstone is quite important because it could potentially help you save some time. And if you have your heirlooms that maybe give you portals to cities or something, that would save you some time. And I think that could be a cool thing that doesn't make it too OP for people who don't have it to feel like they're missing out. So that could also be a thing.
Yeah, so it just seems like right now they're kind of lackluster, and Blizzard said, this is the time for us to put these bonuses out there and to get feedback on them. So, but yeah, a lot of people just like that's it. Doesn't really, feel
Yeah.
like it has much personality. Plus, like the old heirlooms, they all had names and that were like referring to, epic weapons and armor in the past. Like Tattered, Dreadmist.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was referring to cool things, and this just seems very generic now with this tier set and everything being the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the fantasy more that, you had this like handed down item with the essence of your heirloom and it did something cool. And now like, it just feels kind of generic. So hopefully they'll keep playing around with these in future builds, because I see why they wanted to remove experience, because the leveling process was faster in
Yeah.
Shadowlands, only having to do one zone, but the replacement isn't very hype.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think they could have definitely added something more fun in this. Um, I think the rested experience consumed feels okay, maybe in the long run, but like you said, you don't even have any benefit from it at the beginning. Out of combat regen, completely like zero effect. Burst of knowledge, potentially something interesting every time you level, but not enough. You need something all the
right.
time. And also,
Yeah.
a lot of times you level if you do a dungeon, for example, or if you hand in quests. So if you level in the moment of finishing a dungeon or handing in quests, then this effect of gaining a level, dealing holy damage to nearby enemies will be completely useless because when you've completed the dungeon, there's no enemies. And if you're just about to hand in quests, which might give you a whole level,
Right.
then again, it's completely useless. So, yeah.
If
I,
anything, it would be nice if this could be an on use, maybe not 40% effect, but
yes,
it's some sort of
an
on use
unused
effect,
effect.
you get like a trinket effect where you get a stat boost and maybe it could stack or increase with the number of mobs you
Mm-hmm.
kill, and they could have a
Mm-hmm.
fairly long cooldown, so you'd have to time when you wanted to, start the chain
Mm-hmm.
reaction. And that could be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Or add corruptions to them. Add infinite stars on the
Corruptions can
chest
come
and then
back. Yes,
TD on the
infinite.
shoulders and yep, it's
Yeah.
fixed now.
But in all seriousness, I mean, Blizzard came up with such wild corruption effects. We know that they can come up with, over the top, unique effects
Yeah.
on items.
Yeah.
Bring some of those out.
Yeah.
Hello, Brightpaw.
I mean,
What
if
do
you
you
have a
think of
chest that
that?
has like a TD effect and you do dungeons, you will always want to use the heirloom piece because it's going to be better than anything
Right.
out there. And
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah. Also worth noting is that most of the elixir experience pots are going away, like elixir of ancient knowledge, rapid mind, and excess potion of accelerated learning.
Yeah, what
The
does
only
that
one
mean?
that works is the BFA one, and that only goes up to 50. So, for example, like I know people really like Elixir of the Rapid Mind, and they used to be from Garrison missions, and then now they're just on the auction house. But they're just becoming like junk items. You can't use them
Really?
in
Because I think I
Shadowlands.
have a couple in my bank.
Yeah, so don't buy them because they're going away.
Okay, time to sell them.
Yeah, time to sell them, or I guess use them now.
Yeah, or use them now. I do still have a Volpera to level.
Yeah, so all that's going away, and the Enlightenment buff is that monks have is going to be changed as well to not grant more experience. So
Mm,
I guess they really don't want
experience
stacking
buffs.
experience buffs to
Yeah,
be a thing in Shadowlands. So
interesting. Yeah,
I
I
think
guess
it'd be
they just want to standardize it. I think that's what it is. They want everyone to have a um, I guess a more refined way to level. It's going to take people this long, and when people do these are the different factors, not how many experience buffs people have. Maybe so that they have a bit more control over it.
right, and I think that they just want to have the experience be unified across the board, and they know what players are getting into. It's not like, oh, well, we have to tune the leveling experience around several different types of players. It's like, if you pick the Wrath
Good point.
experience,
Mm-hmm.
we expect you to hit up every single zone with no experience buffs, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to, well, we have to also account for players that only did one zone because they were loaded up on experience heirlooms and they have no idea what the story is, and they haven't like unlocked any flight points, and now do we have to put like a book in to learn flight paths. And like I feel that if they don't want to design the level experience for two completely types of people. They just want it to be designed for one person progressing along at a certain rate, unlocking several hundred quests as they level up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. We did see some crazy leveling times with people who were stacking a bunch of XP. So maybe those stories were also part of the reasoning for also pushing it a little bit, so that there was a little bit more of a unified way of doing things.
Yeah. So I also just learned that our webhook is being a little crazy. So apologies if you got a webhook that just had a URL in it. I'm going to message my coworker quickly.
Oh, like it wasn't linking anything?
It had it did something strange where it put one of the uh links in the SEO description. So instead of
Oh,
like that we're starting the show soon, it had the link there. But I just
gotcha.
screwed it up with the devs. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
All right.
But yeah, going back to heirlooms, yeah, I think I'm okay with the pots being removed, but I think the bonuses could be way cooler. And like you said, put
Mm-hmm.
some of that corruption creativity
Yeah.
hats on
Do
and
something
add some
crazy.
of that.
Yeah, make it fun to have the heirlooms. Don't make people sad for spending those hundreds of thousands of gold. Actually, I'm not sure how expensive it is, but if you wanted everything, I think it's quite expensive.
Yeah, I mean, they made such a big deal a few years ago about you should collect everything and like unlock the chopper and other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Can we see a
So
price reduction at least so I can finally, upgrade all my heirlooms to,
Right.
level 4, so I can complete my A to T. That would be great. Blizzard, 10%, everything down to 10%. That would be awesome. Because
I also
they're quite
wonder,
expensive. Like, I've been running around my demon hunters in cloth gear because
right? I
I just
remember
wanted the
with
XP.
yeah.
Yeah,
When
go ahead.
they do like stuff with holidays, they always and they add new rewards, but a big perk is that you can get alternate ways of getting the heirloom upgrades. And with all that going away, I wonder if they'll find something interesting to add to the holiday vendors instead. Like,
Mm.
because that's, like if you had everything, you could get like an heirloom upgrade with, Lunar
Yep,
Festival
that's true.
tokens
Mm-hmm.
or
Charging battery.
blossoms, but that isn't going to be a thing anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is true. Maybe
Um,
they'll add some more heirlooms, like completely new items with cool effects. Maybe that's what's waiting.
yeah, I mean, the build should be in a few days, so hopefully we'll see some changes
Mm-hmm.
by then. We already saw the elixirs being poor quality in the beta build, so some progress is starting to happen with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my
And,
headset saying charging batteries.
but
Just
yeah, I
letting stream
think
know in case people are like checking their own headsets. That was me.
no, that was Bright Paw,
Yeah, actually, it
his
was
own
Brightpaw.
headset.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
Oh, topic of covenants.
Yeah. So this was an interesting find over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We learned in an
Bit
interview with Windows
controversial.
Central.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we learned that there are going to be like some sort of covenant specific perks in several dungeons. And we've seen now some of this, but there's still more to come. The Night Fae Covenant in the dungeon Mist of Tyrna Scythe, which is a Arden Wheel themed dungeon, has several unique perks that only the Night Fae players can access. You can skip a trash pack by opening some overgrown roots. You can open another area, and then there are mushrooms that can give you stat buffs. And the
Mm-hmm.
really controversial thing is that you can unlock a checkpoint after every boss.
Yep.
So the logic here is that, every zone has two story dungeons associated with it. So probably, each player has perks for those two dungeons. And the idea is that you'd want, diversity and one player of each covenant in your regular dungeon group. So you always are benefiting from the buffs. We don't know if this works for Mythic Plus yet. Uh, but it feels like the checkpoints is just like
Very,
really
very
OP
strong.
and something
Yep.
something that people feel should just be there for, quality of life
Mm-hmm.
regardless of covenant.
Mm-hmm. So, what do we think right now? Is it the case that multiple covenants have bonuses in the same dungeon, or will it be like, well, this covenant has a bonus in this dungeon, this covenant has a bonus in a different dungeon? How are they tying together?
So I think it's going to be like, okay, Night Fae has a bonus in the two Ardenvale dungeons,
Mm-hmm.
and then like Venthyr has a bonus in the two Revendreth dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
So you only like a
So
covenant
you
only
need
has bonuses
one. Mm-hmm.
right for several dungeons, and then like of course lots of people weighed in on this, and of course the range was all over the place. I
Yeah.
do think it's better that you only have benefits in certain dungeons versus all, because then it would be like, oh well, like you're like this covenant has a better benefit in this dungeon than the other covenant does, while with this at least it every covenant has an opportunity to shine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the checkpoints are still too much for to be tied to a covenant.
I think so too, especially in Mythic Plus, because it does potentially force somebody to change just because of the Covenant perk, especially at the higher levels. Um, the fact that it seems like the Covenants give bonus to specific dungeons does at least mean that we don't need to predetermine which 5 covenants we need in each dungeon. So it's
Mm-hmm.
at least it's not like we need one Night Fae in this group and one Venthyr in this group. So that's at least good. But it does sound a little bit like, wait, we do need at least one person with Night Fae. maybe it won't be a problem. Maybe the choices among people will be quite diverse naturally. But it is definitely a point of concern if it becomes, especially if they're not extremely balanced either, if the other covenants don't give bonuses that are that important.
Yeah, so the way the stat buff works is that the Night Fae like unlocks a room and then there are mushrooms and there are enough mushrooms for everyone in the party to get either a stamina or a primary stat buff. So it's not like, oh, only Night Fae can get the buff, so we want all Night Fae for this dungeon because they have like
Yeah,
10% more stats.
everyone
So
gets
that
access.
seems good.
Yeah.
So like if there's a secret room in every dungeon that the Covenant person opens the door and everyone benefits, I think that can be,
Mm-hmm.
easily balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Um so I think that is okay and adds like a nice little perk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'd have to it would be curious if this is in Mythic Plus or not
Mm-hmm.
because uh yeah, that I could see min-maxing like, oh, we want like this Night Fae that has like the movement speed or certain, to unlock the door as we do all these other things, min-maxing who opens the secret room.
Mm-hmm.
Uh
Except for the
I do
stat
feel
buff, if you think about it in the hierarchies, the other one is
the skip
the skip. Hmm.
was I think well at least I mean I don't know what it's like in the other dungeons, but this seems to be like just you can skip one pack, and I almost wonder if at higher keys if you would just I don't know pull it as part of like a larger group like
Mm-hmm.
maybe the skip would not be uh as overpowered
Mm-hmm.
uh but it's nice obviously to have the option make the person feel special that they can skip
Mm-hmm.
something.
Because I can imagine in casual dungeons this kind of thing being really fun. Like I remember in
Yeah.
Untitled when we had that dungeon where,
Oh, Court of Stars, yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's the one, right? With the professions,
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah,
So like,
based on profession or class you had a little perk.
oh yeah, was it class two? Okay, I just remember the profession part.
Yeah.
Like people would ask like, hey, do we have any enchanter in the group? And then it's like, hey, that's me actually. What can I do something here? And I think that's quite cool, and it gives you a sense of like purpose with a choice that you made, which is not actually related to the dungeon itself. So I think like that, it's a really cool thing. I am curious though how it will be in Mythic Plus if it causes some kind of imbalance of some sort.
Yeah, I mean, just comparing to Court of Stars, they felt like nice little perks that could affect the dungeon, but something like checkpoints seems really
Yeah.
major in comparison to what Court of Stars offered. But like, I think having the stat buffs that one person unlocks that everyone in the group can access, I think that's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's hard to comment on the skips because we haven't seen what the skips would be like in every dungeon yet.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I could see at higher keys, maybe it would be faster for you to just like run straight through and pull the mobs than making a detour going around.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Blizzard has
Indeed.
not actually commented on this yet, so we just
Mm-hmm.
found this by like playing through. But because a lot of this caused a lot of conversation on the weekend, so a blue post detailing if this works in Mythic Plus or not and other things would be good.
Mm-hmm. That would
So
be good indeed.
yeah. And then the final systems thing we wanted to highlight in the show was that last week we were highlighting the weekly vault UI, and we were talking about how the Mythic Plus requirement seemed really steep, and PvP seemed very easy, and Blizzard rebalanced them.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems more doable now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Just like a lot of people suspected, 15 mythic dungeons is indeed a little bit much. So that has now been nerfed to 10. And the second step of it is nerfed from 5 to 4. And then the PvP now requires more points. So it's 125 for the first step, 350 second, and 875 as the third. I'm curious exactly how long this will take for the conquest points. It does seem like a lot, which I think should be understandable because, well, 10 mythic dungeons is also a lot for somebody who doesn't play
Right.
that primarily.
Like an arena match is, should be shorter than running a whole dungeon.
Yes, exactly. That's why 250 conquest points for max PvP was really strange before, because that's like 2 epic BGs and then you're done.
Right.
Or maybe a bit more, but yeah. So I think it's a lot more balanced now. I need to look into exactly how much conquest you get for the different games and how long that would take in comparison. But at least it's a little bit more similar now. It's not as crazy as it was before.
That seems to be a step in the right direction, and Blizzard reacting to feedback. So
Indeed.
yeah, just wanted to give you guys a brief update on that. There are more systems themed updates like Shadow Priests, which are very exciting, but probably better suited to like a specialized class Discord talking about them instead of us on the show. But we're happy that they finally got their revamp, and it seems very in depth. It's not just tuning a few knobs. So at least that's exciting for them. I'm happy for them.
Yeah, I'm really happy too. I'm not sure how it's been the entire expansion, but in general, I feel like Shadow Priests have been quite weak this expansion.
They felt very sad for
Yeah.
a while. So
Yeah, I'm not sure when it started, but I do feel like Shadow Priests haven't been that happy lately. So it's nice to see this happen, so they can get a fresh start. I also see a question, or not a question, but more like a confirmation in the chat about the PvP cap actually being 500 right now. So, and that's also a really good point. If Conquest cap right now is 500, then expecting 875 for the big chest one, for the third one, is actually very fair. It's almost it's not that much more. And on top of that, you also have to consider the fact that PvP quests are coming back as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to PvP more. You just make sure that you do the quests.
So,
but yeah.
We have a mount to share.
We do. A really cool looking one, actually.
Yeah, it's a horse, but it's a cool horse.
There it is.
Unlike the BFA horses.
Yeah. There it is. So this horse is wait, let me see. This horse is a special one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the Sin Runner Reigns, and with the spell Summon Flavor, its name is Sin Runner Blanchy. So this is old Blanchy from Westfall, who died in Cataclysm, being the sort of murder mystery kicked off the Westfall plot with the return of the Defias. And old Blanchy seems to have some sins to atone for.
Yeah. It's such a funny
very
little
demonic.
detail.
Yeah, it's very demonic, does not look like their normal self in Westfall. The Sin Runner sounds like the horses in Revendreth, and that's the zone of the Venthyr, where if you have so many sins, it's a final step before you are sent to the Maw. So it seems like the horse has kind of a dark past. And we data mined lots of horse-themed items, which imply that you have to do a lot of things to get Blanchy as a mount, so this could be an interesting quest line, or maybe even a secret. Like for the final step, it says you have to feed the horse a Dread Hollow apple. And then there are other things like bucket of clean water, handful of oats, lucky Sin Runner horseshoe, lots of horse-themed items. So the horse looks really cool, and I could see this requiring something special to do to acquire it.
Does seem like it's going to be some sort of small quest or something to learn more about it and be able to obtain it yourself. And it does look really cool.
Curious, why is Blanchy so evil? Like what happened?
Yeah. Like what sins?
Yeah, so it's very, very mysterious what's going on with old Blanchy. But people are excited to learn more about old Blanchy, one of the original meme characters from Vanilla. So it's interesting to see old Blanchy return.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So Blanchy still wants the oats, huh?
I wonder, I'm thinking of other meme characters. I wonder if we'll see like Mankirk's wife in Shadowlands. I think
Mm-hmm.
that would be funny as well.
Indeed.
Right, yeah. But yeah, speaking of more interesting animals, there was a ton of hunter pet updates this build.
Oh yeah, hunters are going to be very happy. This first one here
Let
is,
me
I
check
think, a
the
really cool
right
one
pop-up.
too. Hunters can now
Yeah.
tame cloud serpents. If you are
Yeah.
unfamiliar with what cloud serpents are, probably not though, because they're super cool and impossible to miss. But in case you are, they look like this. There's many different color variations, and they were the unique mount models that were added with Miss Pandaria. And this is the first time that these can now be tamed. The ones that you can find out in the wild. One of them being the Shah of Anger one.
You can also tame Huolan, Nalek, Sulong, a lot of famous ones. Some of them
Mm-hmm.
have the cool lightning effects, some of them have the kind of shadowy corruption effects. They come in all colors. And you can get this if you're Pandaren, you will have it by default. But if not, you can get Exalted with Order of the Cloud Serpent, which is something you can work on grinding out now, even. So you can do all that, and then I believe in the pre-patch you will be able to buy the book, and then you can tame all of these interesting cloud serpents.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also, you can have it match your mount as well. A lot of
Yeah,
them,
you can be on the
yeah,
mount and have the pet that looks like your mount. I always love those kind of combinations. Like using my
yeah.
Infernal and then sitting on the Infernal mount on my Warlock. And the Infernal pet too. That looks similar enough at least. No, that it's really cool. It's really cool. I see a question in the chat which is relevant to this. Are there any Elogon like models? I don't think so. And I doubt a
I don't
boss would
think,
be tameable.
yeah, I don't think Elegon is one. I think it's
No.
actually
And
I
I don't,
think it's tamed as it's mechanical. It's a different classification. Yeah, Elegon is considered a mechanical
mm-hmm.
because I guess it's like, the vaults and the
Yeah,
celestial
yeah,
thing. It's not considered a beast.
yeah. Mm-hmm. But and at least to my knowledge, there is no beast out in the world that looks like Illigon either. So you can't tame that.
I think there's also I wouldn't be surprised if some of the bosses you could tame would be removed because I thought there was always like a fantasy line where like if a boss is its own powerful personality, like it doesn't make sense for a hunter to be able to tame a boss, even though it sounds really funny. Like a famous rare spawn a hunter might want to tame, but if it's something like, I don't know, like taming a world boss or taming a difficult raid boss seems like it breaks the lore more. But who knows? Uh
No, yeah,
Alagon, it's like
surely you can't
yeah.
tame any raid boss, can you?
Uh, well, we'll talk with the undead. You can tame Gluth. But yeah, I don't know. Can you tame raid bosses? I think you can tame Undasta, who's the outdoor boss.
Yeah, but outdoor is okay, right? Because if it's in a raid, then you tame it. Will that count it as you
Yeah,
defeated it? And then you
yeah.
go to the next boss.
That would be weird. Yeah.
That's a good one. Is Horadon
Yeah.
tameable?
Let's see.
Because Horadon is in a raid.
I'm pulling that up.
So what's faster, defeating it or taming it?
Yeah. Yes, you can tame in patch 8.2 if you get the Tome of
Mm.
Dinomancy.
Okay, interesting. Tame raid bosses. All right, hunters.
Yeah.
You guys are spoiled. Breaking the game.
Yep.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I mean, I think Elegon though is too much like, oh, we've tamed this celestial, Titan construct being. It feels a little I don't know, like over the top,
Yeah.
especially with the unique celestial model.
You know, hunters have already been sort of made fun of, or I guess hated by people for trying to tame Ondasta because people try to farm it. So
Hmm.
now they can tame
The
Nalak
Elragon
and
mount.
Shav Anger too.
Yeah.
So mount farmers will not be happy if they see a hunter. But at least they
Nope.
probably should be able to kill it before it's tamed. But still, it's quite funny. I kind of feel bad for the hunters that want them tamed, and then I feel bad for the people who are trying to kill them to get them out. Because one of the two parties is going to lose out.
People trying to, well, at least like if a hunter they tame it, you don't need to go back and try again. While if you're going for the mount, there's a very low chance you will, you know,
True,
get the item.
true.
Uh,
Oh, that's
but
a
yeah,
very good point. Shav Anger is not a Cloud Serpent, it just drops one. So I don't think Shav Anger can be an example. My bad.
no, but Nalik is the world boss
Nalik is
that,
the world boss.
and
Thank you for correcting
Huolon
me.
is the rare that can also drop a
Yes, on
cloud
Timeless
serpent
Isle.
mount.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
My bad for mixing those up. Yes, you're
Uh-huh.
correct. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, undead beasts can also be tamed. People aren't sure how you get this book. It sounds like it could be Maldraxxus themed, but undead can tame these beasts by default. And these beasts are part of all sorts of families, not just limited to one. So, for example, in the hound or dog family, you can tame hellhounds now, as well as Precious in Icecrown Citadel and Gluth in Naxxramas. So,
Mm-hmm.
like these evil dog puppies.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the Devilsaur family, you can tame a lot of like bony dinosaurs, as well as in the raptor family. Like there's like Sarltooth, Rebon, which has a lot of really cool like armor on him, very Zandalari. Or you know the Wind Serpent, you can now tame the bony Shade of Hakar. So lots of little flavor additions. Like a lot of bony models can now be tamed, which is neat.
Mm-hmm. That is neat indeed. More variety for the hunters. We
And it
have
makes
some.
sense with Shadowlands because, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like the death themed. Although I've seen some Death Knights saying, like, man, hunters have more, like, death themed pets than our class does. You know, can we get a glyph or something to let us, you know, change the appearance of our undead companions? Because, you know, it's strange that hunters have more customization than we do when it comes to, you know, these pets,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interesting point. Uh, Gluth does look really funny. This, you know, gigantic
Yep.
puppy that you
Mm-hmm.
can tame.
Mm-hmm.
Very angry puppy.
Luke's
So
precious ribbon. Yeah.
that actually is I think when some unique models are tamed, they lose some of their like model editions, and in Precious's case, the ribbon goes away when you tame her. So that's a little sad.
Oh, okay, so you can't see it.
No,
Hmm.
but you'll still know you tamed Precious.
Yeah. We have some more hunter updates with
Yeah.
some more species that are added to old families.
Yeah, these were surprisingly popular. You can tame giraffes in the stag family, and the most popular announcement was that you can tame pigs. Like,
Yep.
you would not think that was like, oh, I can tame a really cute pig now. It's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
And they are part of the boar family.
Mm-hmm.
And there are lots of other additions, like you can tame rams in, you know, Alterac Valley, those weird neon gyre worms from Cataclysm, the Kunchang, like Kobok
Oh.
from
Mm-hmm.
Mist of Pandaria,
Mm-hmm.
um, the spiders that were called that were classified as demons from Legion, like in Emerald Nightmare, and the just like the very plain looking normal old school snakes as well, like the vipers you see in a lot of the old zones.
Mm-hmm.
So people are really pumped to see a lot of simple models and you know normal NPCs become tameable. Maybe it reminds them of like a pet they had, or you know like their hunter's very first pet,
Mm-hmm.
or you know like a animal they like from the starting zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, a lot of people were very excited about the pig.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. It makes sense because it's such a classic feeling to it. There might be a little bit of nostalgia too, and just sometimes fancy and shiny isn't wanted. Sometimes you want things to look a bit, simple and old, old school rather. So I can understand the excitement that people feel for this.
Yeah, or like a lot of the times you have a hunter pet that reminds you of, maybe like a pet or like, I don't know, maybe your relatives had a farm. Like a lot of people have a cat that reminds them of, their actual IRL cat or
Mm-hmm.
dog.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot. It's nice having variety to appeal to the people that want something fantastical, like a cloud serpent, and then other people that, just want something simple, like a pig.
Mm-hmm. I would like a cloud serpent. Yep.
And
And
then,
uh,
yeah,
and that's still not everything.
with hunter pets.
Uh-huh. Hunters have even more updates. And
Yeah.
this time they've got three new families. So I'm not a hunter expert, but getting three new families, isn't that quite big?
Yeah, and it's not just like splitting, uh, like one subspecies into another family and calling it a name. There
Mm-hmm.
are a lot of brand new models that are a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
So the mammoth family, for example, you couldn't tame mammoths before, and they also contain Elix from Azeroth and Warlords of Draenor, and you couldn't tame Elix before. So
Mm-hmm.
people are really excited about these, including Draenei, who are really happy to have this Elec following them around now.
Mm-hmm.
And then people are very hype about the camel family because you have the Uldum camels, but then you also have all the really cute alpacas from Battle
Yeah.
for Azeroth.
Yep. Alpacas in the camel family.
You can have your alpaca mount, and then your alpaca battle pet, and then your
Oh,
alpaca hunter pet.
yeah. Yeah, because there's a battle pet too. That's true.
Yeah. So if you're like, wow, there are so many pets, how do I have room for all of them? The stable is greatly expanded, has over 200 slots in Shadowlands, up from like 60, so you will have room for all of these pets.
Sounds like a good expansion for hunters.
Yeah.
Collector hunters, at
But there
least.
are still no ducks in Azeroth. I don't know why, but it's like a running joke.
Mm.
Whenever the hunter dev Muffinus tweets about it, people are like, "What about ducks?" And he's like, "That's too wild. We can't have, ducks in Azeroth."
Yeah, can't imagine ducks in a world. What?
Nope.
No, that's way too much. Over the line.
So we
And
also have some
yeah.
transmog updates.
Oh,
Moving
yes.
on for it's a good build if you like collecting things between Blanchy and these hunter pets and now the transmog updates.
I really like
You
this
can
one.
yeah, because you're the warlock, so why don't you say what it is?
Okay, so as a warlock and probably priest and mage too, whenever you'd get an upgrade and a weapon upgrade specifically, and the weapon it was a wand, you became sad because there's not that many wands, or maybe none at all, that look cool at all. So every time I get a wand, I give it a new shot. Maybe I missed something before. Let me go through the appearance list one more time, and no, there's no good looking wands. I tend to just pick something that doesn't even look cool at all, just looks silly, like the thing with the stars, or something, not like a real weapon, because I can't pick anything cool. And now they have finally loosened the rules, so wands can now be transmogged into daggers, swords, and one hand maces. So
Right.
that means as a warlock, I can now choose to transmog it into a sword because the swords look awesome. So that's really
Right.
good. I'm really happy about this change. I remember this becoming a topic a long time ago, and they were talking about why they weren't able to do that, which was something to do with the wand having a certain animation. So I never thought they would actually fix it. So it's really nice and surprising news to read this.
It's nice how they are adding more flexibility because I know, like, as a melee, people were really sad for a while that, daggers couldn't be swapped into things like, swords or axes or maces. And I think for similar reasons with the animations. So it's nice to see that with wands, at least they've made some progress.
Mm-hmm. It is really nice. And like somebody commented in the chat too, that's normally what I would do too. If I would have to use a wand, I would also just choose a Legion artifact weapon because those were not tied to what weapon type you were using, but instead tied to the spec you were playing. So that was also
Yeah.
a good solution. But now we can transmog into swords. So I'm happy. It's really good.
Speaking of new transmog options, a few weeks ago we highlighted a bunch of really simple but sharp looking weapons, and we're speculating based on their names they were from the new player experience. And now we have confirmation that many of these weapons, not the shields, but a lot of other ones, are available to purchase for transmog when you complete the starting zone experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want like just like a very nice, simple looking axe or, warglaive or bow or dagger that, doesn't have a bunch of ornate things, just a very nice, simple blade with like a simple leather handle, these transmogs are for you.
Yep, we were indeed talking about this before. You know, sometimes it's nice to not have some huge weapon with a lot of effects on it. Sometimes it's nice to just have something simple. And right now, if you pick a very simple weapon, a simple sword or a simple dagger, you're kind of forced into choosing something with 3 pixels. So now
Yeah.
you get to choose a high definition simple weapon. And yeah, we found the at least one of the main potential sources of this, which will be at the end of that experience in Exile Reach.
Yeah, the one mystery is still how you get the shields, because we data mined a lot of simple shields, but they would have things like an Alliance logo on it or Silver Hand, and people really wanted those, but we ran through the quests on a warrior and we didn't see any shields available to buy at the end of this. So that's still a bit of a mystery. Maybe you unlock the shields through different things because they were simple, but they weren't, super generic. It was like, why would you buy Silver Hand off of a vendor? So maybe there are unique things to getting those,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still nice to see most of the other options available. Like I remember when the garrison had the garden and you could
Oh yeah,
buy the gardening tools, people were really excited and hyped for those because they were like simple and looked pretty good for, like boring, straightforward weapons back in the day.
pitchfork, right? I think they have a pitchfork
Yeah, the
there too.
pitchfork and the sickles that actually like looked really good on a demon
Charging
hunter
battery.
or like rogue because they sheathed on the back and they were like, curved things
Mm-hmm.
going up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, another interesting uh sort of transmog appearance thing is related to druids. A lot of the druid form customizations made their way to the barber shop as announced a few weeks ago, including the artifact weapon skins. But what was surprising was that the Kultir and Moonkin form received tint customization,
Yep.
which was sort of unexpected. But if you remember with data mining, we data mined 4 tints and they all weren't used. And now you can choose between all of the tints at the barbershop.
Yeah. I feel like Druids are
So
going to be really happy with this coming expansion. So much customization. Because we had all the customizations for the other specs as well from the Legion artifact weapons. And now the Kultirans have these different tints for the Boomkin form as well. I'm assuming maybe we will get some tints or some kind of variations for Boomkins that are not Kultiran. Because right now
yeah,
there is none, right? Boomkins have one look, or do they?
I mean, and some of the models are kind of outdated.
Mm-hmm.
Like High Mountain Tauren, they're more modern,
Oh
obviously,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
something
But the
like the
old
Night
ones.
Elf
Mm-hmm.
is, it's a little older, but I wonder if Blizzard could make tints easily for that. Or I think the Zandalari druids, well, they're not the dinosaur. I think they only had one tint that was data mined
Mm-hmm.
for the Moonkin dinosaur, and
Mm-hmm.
like it looks really cool. But maybe they could, I don't know, do something where the armor changes color on it at least.
Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe the original forms just need straight up upgrades. So
Right.
complete updates to what they are, more pixels and just deeper looking. Um, and then the case like the Zendalari Troll one, maybe just more tints just to make it kind of equivalent to the Kultiran. Maybe not like too many things to make it unfair.
I'm surprised to see, the Kultiran, they're an allied race, so it was, and we knew that they aren't getting as many things, but it was nice to see that this allied race Druid form was getting some love.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of
Indeed.
unexpected.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
I also forgot to put this in the notes, but the Fire Kitty made its way to the barber shop, but only if you were, I think, a night elf. So that seemed like a bug, but I could be wrong. But it did seem like a bug. Like, oh, the night elves are burning on Teldrassil. Like they can only become a fire kitty.
Too far, Perk. Too far. Oh
right.
no.
Oh, Great Paws. He just knocked my laptop off the desk.
Yeah, I don't think he was very happy. Mm-hmm.
No, he's unhappy. I'm sorry, Bright Paw. He me out into the mic.
This is fine. See a comment in the chat like, huh? Question mark. I got the Fire Kitty toy after farming it on the Worgen Druid. Yeah, so we're talking about having these forms being picked as a customization option for Druids in the character creation selection. So we're not talking about getting the toy. You can still get the toy as usual. But what we're talking about is in Shadowlands, Blizzard have added the ability to change your Druid form into, among others, the artifact weapon forms that happened in Legion. So, for example, the very glowy neon skin of Feral from the Mage Tower. And this fire feral from the raid, the toy, the Fire Kitty one, has also been added to these customization options. But right now, it seems like only Night Elves can use it, which brings a question of, was that intentional or was it a bug? And then Perk went too far and said, this is the reason.
Right. And now Bright Paw is revolting.
Yep. It's not Night Elf's fault that their home was burning, okay?
Sorry, Bright Paw. Come on, sit in my lap. Let me put the computer back on. He knocked my computer off the desk, too.
Oh. Not happy.
No. So,
yeah, we'll see if that's a bug or if it's going to be only Night Elves.
Yeah. No, Bright Paw. Now he's scrolling the computer screen.
I think that's it on the Transmog news and game news per se. We have some lore to dive into.
Yeah, the first one I don't think needs a spoiler.
No.
But then the other two topics probably do.
Indeed.
So
I have a slideshow to show as Perk gives us a quick summary of it.
So in October, this interesting lore compendium is coming called World of Warcraft, Exploring Azeroth Eastern Kingdoms. And when it first was announced, people weren't sure what to expect, if it was going to be like, a traditional novel or an art book or something in between. And now we actually have some pictures to get a better sense. And it seems very unique. I'm not sure if this has been done before in Warcraft, but it's basically Shaw is like traveling around the Eastern Kingdoms, writing down notes on every zone and like notable artifacts. And Flynn Fairwind is leaving funny notes in the margins, and the book looks like it's from like an actual journal with lots of handwritten notes and illustrations, sketches intermixed. So it's not like a totally serious, dry, boring book. It's definitely from the point of view of actual characters that have their own opinions and biases, and they both have very, very different personalities. Like Shaw, worked for SI7. He's very serious. Flynn is very like partying. Is always in trouble. Plans go wrong. And the bickering that we saw from them in the war campaign when they broke into Dazara lore has continued in the notes, as you can see on the screen, where in Booty Bay, Shaw is saying how horrible it is, and then you see Flynn's notes just sort of smashed on top of it, and he's like, "Oh, Your Majesty, you'd love Booty Bay. Like, I got drunk, and then I did this," and Shaw on the margins is like no, like Anduin does not need to know about this. Anduin would hate it here. Like, why are you like this?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just a lot of humor, and the Tearful one is funny too. How, almost a bit meta. How they're like, oh, like Arthas really cared for his horse. He couldn't have been a bad guy. He likes animals. And it's like, oh no, wait, he raised his horse. Maybe I take that back. He was a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of debate as well where people are saying, can we trust all of this as canon? And I think because it's from the point of view of the characters, it's sort of like implied that there is some bias to it. It's not like Chronicle where we assume it's from the point of view of a Titan or some all-knowing, powerful cosmic being. It's from the point of view of two characters going around Azeroth, observing what is around them, and they are alliance, so there might be some bias behind it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's really interesting to have books like this, and maybe we will see them or another, duo of characters doing something similar for the other zones
Yeah.
in World of Warcraft, the other continents.
I was just going to ask if you're expecting any other continents to be covered similar to this.
I mean, I think if it goes well, they could definitely continue it.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of the lore is difficult to get into. It sounds really dry, but if they do it from the point of view of well liked, kind of like fan favorite characters, it could get people into it that want to read something engaging, with some jokes, with some nice art mixed in that isn't, feeling like you're reading a textbook with a quiz at the end of it.
Yeah.
So, maybe I'm trying to think who would be interesting characters. Like just, like maybe Zakan, could do one.
Mm-hmm.
Like Zakan and like Talanji could, team up and do something.
Yeah. And they've got the humor too. It would be perfect.
Yeah. Or like Chen and Lily in Pandaria, because he's a great explorer and like Lily is so full of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So, get some characters that maybe are popular but don't fit into the like main storyline of the expansion, and give them something give them something to do, let their personality shine. Maybe like seeing two characters crack jokes at each other, maybe that doesn't translate into the epic Shadowlands intro, but in a book you can explore that dynamic and have more fun with them that way.
I see someone saying Anduin and Rathian. Can we have a punch being talked about here?
Yeah, well, like maybe after Anduin gets out of the trouble he's in with Shadowlands, then he can, I don't know, go to Booty Bay, relax, and then go on a tour documenting documenting all of the different cities that he's ruling over.
We also have a picture which shows the cover of the book as well. And
Yeah,
I'm not sure if
it's
you mentioned
leather, I think.
Oh,
Go ahead.
fancy. I was going to say, I'm not sure if you mentioned already, but the date that this is meant to be released is October 20th.
Yeah. So, yeah, that, it's coming pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's another, like a very nice version of like Rise of the Horde and the other books in the early Horde cycle also coming on October 20th that has deluxe illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I hope this book does well. I hope we get a series of them. And I think it's very immersive having the art on every page. I've seen people be like, oh, why isn't there color illustrations on every page? And it's like, you'd be paying a fortune for it. And it's not meant to be, like an art research book. It's meant to look like their actual journal with hand-drawn illustrations. Like they wouldn't be doing elaborate watercolors on every single page of their travel journal.
Your voice is
But yeah,
lagging out a little bit. I think everything you said was still understood, but just in case, I'm gonna quickly change the server. Let's see.
I blame Brightpaw.
Okay,
Sitting
let's see
on
if
a wire.
this fixes it.
I am trying to move him.
Okay, I think it sounds a little bit better now. I think everything you said still was got through properly, and understandably, it was just lagging a bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Grandpa's been sitting on wires. Let me see if I can move him. He moved himself. He,
Okay,
he knew he knew he
nice.
was lagging something.
Yep, he knew. He knew.
Yes. Okay, now he's gotten revenge for my fire kitty comment.
Oh
um,
yeah, yeah, of course. It's
yes.
like, see, that's what you get.
Yeah.
Can't talk like that about my fellow people. No, but I think the art does look amazing even without color. It is very fitting and does give a sort of diary feel to it. So it is nice and feels almost a bit more personal.
And we will be getting a really deluxe art book with the Shadowlands Collector's Edition.
Mm-hmm.
So for people that miss that type of art, there's still a book coming with that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that it's cool to see Blizzard experiment with new types of things. Like normally, when you have something like the Ultimate Visual Guide, it's a lot of screenshots we've already seen with basic summaries. And at least with this, we get some character development, and we get some unique art we haven't seen before. Like on the Silver Moon page, I thought it was interesting how you have the Alliance characters talking about the Horde City and expressing regret that they left the Alliance and how it actually made sense for them to leave the Alliance because of how they were, treated in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Because like with BFA, we're so used to everyone trying to be upset at each other over the slightest disagreement. So it was nice to see a more mature perspective for a change.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's coming out in October,
Yep.
and look forward to learning more about the book. And hopefully, if it does well, more will come in the series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should put up a brief spoiler tag. This will
Oh
not be
yeah.
the final. This is not the final topic. We have some Blizzard business news to discuss after this, so if lore
Mm-hmm.
isn't your thing, stick around. But we did have a
Yep.
few lore tidbits we wanted to share with you guys. My coworkers have been working really hard to relevel after the character wipe, and they've been
Oh
finding
yeah.
some new things to
Mm-hmm.
share with you guys.
So we have two topics of lore that we will talk about here, and when those topics are over, the spoiler tag, which is on this side, not this side, will go down. For now, if you would rather not be spoiled with the different stories that happened on the beta right now in Shadowlands, you can just mute this stream. There we go.
So, in the zone of Maldraxxus, we have Draka, who was assigned there, and we also have Lady Vosh and Alexandra Smograin. And they kind of make an unlikely trio of allies. They have very different perspectives on things. Vosh was one of the main villains of Burning Crusade. Draka was a brave warrior in the Frostwolf clan and died in an ambush when Thrall was just a baby. And Mograine wielded the Ashbringer, and he was killed by one of his sons, raised as Kel'Thuzad, and then he was freed when his other son sacrificed himself. So, very different backgrounds, and it's interesting in Maldraxxus to see them interact with each other because they have a lot of clashes on different things. So, one bit that's interesting is Draka and Vash discussing Outland. And Vash says, I once laid claim to your homeworld, Draka, or to be more precise, the pitiful husk that remained after its shattering. And Draka says, you seem to know much of Broken Worlds, Vash, and of consorting with demonic filth. Queen Ashara's ambition blessed us with unmatched power. The sundering was a necessary cause for our ascension. I have heard tales of your vain, heartless queen. It seems you have a great deal in common with her, in form as well as substance. So, very, Vosh is trying to destroy and capture the world while Draka is very, sad having to leave it. And it's interesting because Vosh is also unaware about Ashara's return in battle for Azeroth and how she is still out in the world in visions of N'Zoth. So perhaps she will reunite with Ashara, and Draka doesn't seem to know that Thrall has survived, so perhaps they will have a reunion as well. And they actually have a conversation with Draka and Mograine about their children and how they're not sure of their fates. Draka is saying, "My son was a mere babe when traitors struck me down. I fought my last breath to save him, but I do not know if he survived." And Mograine is saying, "Why is my phone ringing?" Okay, sorry. Mograine is saying that he has two sons. One betrayed him, while the other sacrificed himself to free me, and that they briefly met up in the Maw. And we know that Thrall did get to Shadowlands. He was trapped in the Maw, and we free him. So I think a reunion would be interesting, especially because when Thrall met his AU parents in Warlords, they never actually he never actually revealed his identity
No, I
to
remember.
them.
He didn't tell them.
So I feel like a reunion with his mother would be quite poignant
Mm-hmm.
if they, did get to meet up.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Vosh discusses why she kept her Naga form because, in the Shadowlands, a lot of it is you can become your true form or you can, forge something like Mograine reforges a weapon that looks like Ashbringer called Fatebringer because it reminds him of what he, wielded in life. And Mograine is like, "Baroness, your original Night Elf form was restored in the afterlife, was it not? Why abandon it for one akin to the Naga?" And Vash says, "When I was Kaldora, I was but a handmaiden to my queen, prized for my beauty and little else. As a Naga, I was recognized and rewarded for my cunning and resolve." And then she says, "But I could ask the same question for you. Why adopt the form of a feeble human when so many stronger ones exist?" And he says, "This is the form I had when purging countless undead on Azeroth, but I suppose your point stands." And it's interesting because, it sort of reminds me of like the undead, how people think it's like a curse, but then they turned it into their identity. How you could think that, oh, N'Zoth turned them all into Naga, and this was something they would want to remove when they could. But it's interesting how Vosh is like, more of my skills were valued when I was a Naga. I wasn't just, a pretty face. And she's like really embraced that side of her. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I think embrace is the right word for it. Being because you're put in a situation that you're forced into, but then it ends up shaping you, and in this case, in a way that makes you feel stronger. And it's quite interesting when it's put like this to understand that point of view.
Yeah, especially because, kind of similar to Illidan, she was just a character we fought in Burning Crusade, and now we can actually talk to her, and she does seem a bit snooty or has some controversial beliefs, like, the Sundering was actually good, but she has more of a personality, and a lot of what she says is kind of thought-provoking. And so it's neat when there's a villain that sort of seemed one note, or maybe it was just a meme, like, oh, Tainted Cores or the Serpent Shrine elevator, and now they become a complicated, interesting character. And yeah, they're just a very fun, interesting trio with very different backgrounds that are sort of fighting on the same side now. And they don't necessarily get along, but they're just very interesting to talk to, and we found these dialogues and others as we were replaying through Maldraxxus again.
I feel like this point of feeling more appreciated as a Naga in a sense probably can make people relate as well when something bad happened to them, which they couldn't stop. Could be anything. It could be a simple traffic accident that changed the way you look, or maybe some kind of accident that makes you handicapped. Maybe not an accident, maybe an actual life situation, maybe disease that makes you incapable in certain parts of your body. And when given the chance to like revert it, maybe the person would say no because how it's shaped them at that point. And I think that's quite deep, actually. If you think about it.
I think there are also like certain personality skills. There's a lot of parallels to like women in various industries. Like maybe media tells you that like being pretty or like agreeable or likable is like really key to getting ahead or surviving. And it's like, well, what happens if, you try to be powerful or successful or self-sufficient, or you don't have those personality traits, like you're following your own personality as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to doing things that you think like will give you commercial appeal, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe are not your true self, or just being like valued for your appearance versus your ambition.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that what she says is pretty deep on a lot of levels.
Yeah, that's a very good point too, because this is particularly about appearance as well. Like, prized for my beauty and little else. As a Naga, I was recognized and rewarded for my cunning and resolve. So yeah, it is indeed deep on
Yeah.
a lot of different levels.
Yeah. So like who would have thought, like we killed Vosh like 10 years ago, and now it's like, oh, like
Yeah,
she's yeah, like I'm relating to
yeah.
this,
Now she can
Vosh.
be a role model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of another old character that might be coming back, as we've been replaying through things, we've been catching more references to Kel'Thuzad, and there's enough evidence that we think he could maybe be like the end point, like the midpoint final boss of the expansion, like Gul'dan in the Nighthold, because he has
Mm-hmm.
a brand new model. He is referenced in 3 out of the 4 Covenant quests, and he's part of the finale for Maldraxxus and Revendreth. It was bugged, so we couldn't play through it, but we know he escapes.
Mm.
And he just he's a very important large character. He is another character with ties to Arthas.
Yep.
He is just the focus of a Hearthstone expansion, and Hearthstone and WoW kind of parallel each other in very strange, but like it always keeps happening over and over. So I think that there's something to it with how he's played such a major role in at least 3 of the covenants and is still alive, and we know that there's going to be some sort of like Maw raid after Nathria, and with him, being the Archlich, he would seem to fit the aesthetics of a Maw raid. And something interesting as a side note is that there are little spectral cats surrounding him at one point, because I guess he still likes, Mr. Bigglesworth. He still wants to have a cat in Shadowlands.
Yeah. So when are we seeing Mr. Bigglesworth again?
Something that is also interesting is that the Night Fae quest line right now seems really different. Like it doesn't seem to tie into the other 3 covenants. It's all about like Tyrande and Bwonsamdi. So if you cared about those characters on the Alliance and Horde, I guess you would follow Night Fae. But the finale was bugged, so we don't know if like in a surprise twist, Kel'Thuzad could be behind. I don't know, like why Elune was weakened. Maybe Kel'Thuzad was causing that.
Mm.
And if
Mm-hmm.
so, then all of the covenants would have something tied to Kel'Thuzad as like the mastermind behind it, which I don't know. It seems like it could set himself up really well for boss in the middle of the expansion, and could lead to even more hints that Arthas could return by the end of it if so many characters central to Arthas are popping up in some form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. The connection to Arthas makes it all a lot more interesting as well. If we could see Katie come back, I'm all for that. I'm all
Yeah, we
for
even
seeing
data
Katie
mined a
again.
Sapphiron
Mm-hmm.
NPC as well, and the dragon model had Maldraxxus green tints on it, which is another hint that it could be tied to Kel'Thuzad as well as Arthas.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of hints. I know they said we don't want to have Arthas be like a little cheap, have him show up. We want the character to do justice, but it really feels like we're gonna get Arthas.
I think, yeah, like a lot of things are leading up to it, which in itself is proof that, yeah, it's not gonna be just a quick, like, oh, hello there, and then it's over. It does feel like there's a lot of characters that are related that are coming in, and it's probably going to be something big.
Yeah. So even things like the presence of Lady Vosh, how Vosh was relevant to Illidan as well as Kael'thas after Silvermoon was destroyed. Like a lot of these characters and groups from Warcraft 3 are returning, and Warcraft 3 is all about, Arthas's transformation from Paladin into the Lich King.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also getting like a reverse thing of, Bolvar transitioning back from the Lich
Mm-hmm.
King
Mm-hmm.
to a more human, emotional, sympathetic character. So I feel like there's like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of parallels and story moments that are setting things up for Arthas.
Indeed. And we had both Jaina and Sylvanas being, core characters here in this expansion, which is also
Mhm.
setting up for Arthas
Right.
potentially. So it does feel like this is where the direction is going.
Yeah. So I think we can end the spoilers now.
No more spoilers.
And yeah.
There we go. And then we can jump into some more serious business news around Blizzard.
Yeah. So last week we saw the Blizzard official earnings report,
Yep.
and also employees talking about issues with fair pay and reimbursement. So to talk about the official earnings report first, we saw the second quarter, which is April through June. Activision Blizzard reported revenue growing 38% to $1.93 billion.
Yep.
Uh,
Big
that's a
numbers.
big percentage gain.
Yeah, that
Uh,
is a big percentage gain. The,
yeah,
it's yeah, no, that's huge.
yeah, and
38%.
that's huge. Like that was when um a lot of places started to shut down with COVID in the United States.
Mhm.
And a lot of industries have been impacted by COVID from IRL things like the restaurant, hotel, and travel industries, but
Oh yeah.
even some other online things like websites that would rely on advertisements for, luxury products. Uh, those websites would make less money because the ads would be worth less. So
Yeah.
a lot
Mhm.
of websites have been struggling with lower revenue in addition to, like a lot of cars,
Mhm.
travel, photography, summer vacations, Disney, a lot of that has been struggling. But Blizzard, because of the types of games they have really benefited from the pandemic as people have stayed at home. Video games are cheap, and they've picked up a lot of video games like, World of Warcraft, Warzone, Call of Duty. And we even saw in April, Blizzard had that easy experience buff, and the hype has sort of died down from that. But back in April, like that was huge. So many people came back to
Oh
WoW
yeah.
with that experience buff.
Mhm.
So, this was all going on in the second quarter. They stated the obvious, great WoW metrics. People played a lot of WoW during the pandemic. They're seeing a lot more active users than normal for this, mid expansion lull. And, you know, uh,
Which can also
what am I?
be
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
classic as well. A
Yeah, they
lot of
talked
things
about
are
the AQ gates.
Mm-hmm. A lot of things are lining together. Classic has been great for Blizzard. Not only has it attracted a lot of people who would otherwise not play retail, but it also brings a secondary venue for people who might be bored of retail. A lot of people who feel like they don't want to do anything in retail right now because there's a new expansion soon. They end up, since it's the same subscription anyways, logging into Classic and maybe go ahead and level a little bit, quest a little bit, or do something. So it's definitely been a overall positive for Blizzard to have Classic going on right now.
Yeah, they also confirmed that we knew that BlizzCon was canceled this year, and we knew there were tentative plans for something early next year.
Mm-hmm.
And at this event, they basically confirmed that there was going to be a virtual event early next year where they will share what the teams have been working on. Maybe
Yeah.
that could also be something turned into a positive as well. Like we all really like BlizzCon, but sometimes it feels like Blizzard would miss hype windows and not post anything because they had to wait for BlizzCon. And if they know how to do virtual events, which are, I assume, easier than having to take over a convention center and, coordinate updates
Yeah.
for every game and esports. If they master this format, maybe they could do more, hype announcements now and then throughout the year and spread things out. And you don't have to worry about security things online. Like, you don't, there's always a thing at BlizzCon where like someone wanders in and they see,
Yep.
a PowerPoint during a rehearsal and they leak it, and then, we know the expansion a day in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, so obviously, Blizzard is looking very strong. Uh, and we can, also see that on Wowhead. We saw a really big spike in April. People are definitely still playing more. But then we should also talk about the flip side of this, which is employees at Blizzard are underpaid. They've been sharing their salaries. Bloomberg, a news outlet, got word, and they've been publishing updates on the story. And especially when you see the massive profits on Blizzard's end, it's kind of embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you
That,
look at the
yeah.
raises. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I mean, like,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's like in Sweden, but apparently it's not illegal to discuss salaries, but it's just taboo in the United States.
Oh yeah.
And you have to wonder if that's because, bosses don't want people talking, but, hundreds of people shared their salaries. And there are lots
Yeah.
of problems across the board. Like, the people in low-level positions aren't really paid enough to live in Southern California, which is very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
The people in the higher paying positions, their numbers might look better, but when you compare it to what other game companies in LA like Riot or the entertainment industry are offering, it's still lower. And the amounts you get when you're promoted between your job title is lower than what you'd expect at, gigantic, mega, super profitable corporations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So it's just pretty low across the board.
that was the thing as well. At first, it my reaction was a bit like, hey, like a lot of these numbers actually look decent, but living in Southern California is extremely expensive. It's probably one of the more expensive places in the world, and having because you want to live close enough to not have to commute too long either, because traffic is insane over there. So
No public transportation.
there, yeah, no, and you have to account for that. You can't just be like, oh, sorry, I'm 2 hours late today because traffic.
Right.
You have to prioritize being able to get to work, above comfort and how much your rent is. So might be a little bit different when you live in a place like a smaller city, like here in Stockholm, for example. It's a capital city, but it's very small, and you don't have to rely on driving because there's public transport, which is not always perfect, but still like reasonably good. Like you don't often become more than like maybe 20 minutes late in traffic or 30 minutes. In fact, there's even a rule in place where if you're more than 20 minutes late with public transport, you're allowed to grab a cab and you get reimbursed for it. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so it's
That's amazing. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not terrible. But of course, it does get a bit more difficult during wintertime because lots of snow and ice and stuff everywhere. Going to grab a cab might not feel very convenient either. But yeah, living costs are crazy, and then also if you compare it to other companies, like Perk mentioned, like I've heard a lot of compared numbers with people who have left Blizzard in the past and then go to Riot instead, because Riot apparently offers more. And with these numbers of seeing how much better Blizzard is doing, you'd expect some kind of raise at least. And from what I heard, the raises were just a few cents per hour or something.
The original Bloomberg report, they talked about someone who was not super high ranking, was getting hourly rates that were apparently like accounted to something like 50 cents per hour. And if they didn't work large amounts of overtime, they weren't making enough money to really make ends meet. And then on the higher end, they were saying that if you got a promotion, that usually the amount of your salary would increase would be like lower than 10%, which, still sounds really cool. I guess, if you're like in your 20s and you're just reading this, you're like, oh wow, I'm not, I don't have a great job. This sounds amazing. But when you look at other companies like Riot or entertainment industries, like you have to keep in mind this is like a very big, company. It's not like a struggling, mom and pop business here. And other companies in their position are offering more. Like there was someone on Twitter who was talking about being paid something like 76K for being a manager at Blizzard, and then went to Riot, and for a really similar position was making 130K.
Yeah, almost double.
And yeah, and actually, I'm as someone that's lived in Irvine that now lives in LA, like the Irvine rent was more expensive than LA, and you're really in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's very corporate, like you can't have independent businesses in Irvine. Everything is very spread out, but the traffic is somehow still a nightmare. Like there's no real organic community things. Like there's no it's everything just like 20 years old. There's no, oh, this is like the historical center, or
Yeah.
our arts group, or like it's just like this company came in, built the entire city, and that's it. Like there's one train that goes to the town every hour.
Mm-hmm.
It's and it's really expensive, and you don't really get that much for what you're paying for. Like my place is bigger than what I had in Irvine.
Mm-hmm.
And even Riot, for example, I know there's like just more to do because you're in the middle of a city. You're pretty close to the beach. There's a greater variety of like restaurants and diversity. And I believe on their website they were even advertising that the Los Angeles Metro was expanding to build a subway stop like very close by to Riot. So,
Oh,
public
that's
transportation
good.
isn't great in LA, but it's just like they're trying to highlight this as a perk, while Irvine is just like sort of in the middle of nowhere and very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's not just Riot. I mean, there are so many other companies with gaming in the area, even in Irvine.
Mm-hmm.
Like Razer is in Irvine, Twitch OC is in Irvine, and then you also have the whole entertainment industry. So if you're someone that is doing, marketing or branding or esports, there are a lot of competitors in LA
Mm-hmm.
that you could be poached to join as well.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the gaming industry in general is such a dangerous industry to get into as a person working, because a lot of people who choose this line of work has a lot of passion in it. So many people who apply for a job at Blizzard, for example, probably have it as one of their sort of dream jobs, right? Even myself, I was studying computer science before I started with all these streaming things, and if I did never became a streamer, I probably would have continued that line of work. And my my idea of a dream job was always to work for Blizzard. One day, potentially travel to the US and work for Blizzard. Like that alone sounded so cool. So then I could imagine myself also accepting a pay that's a bit lower just because it's Blizzard. And I think maybe there's a little culture in that's going on, potentially with other companies too, not just Blizzard. But it does seem like some companies are improving and becoming better at that, to basically not abuse people's passion and to pay people for their time properly. I remember that I saw a comment on one of these documents as well. Somebody who had been working there for a decade was earning less than 10 years ago because of less over what's it called, overtime hours.
For time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like 10 years of experience at a place, you shouldn't need the overtime hours to make up for like what your salary is, so to speak. If you have your 10 years of experience, at some point you should have some kind of raise, unless you're not doing the job right, then maybe you shouldn't keep the job in the first place. But there has to be some kind of like safety net, like if you've worked there for so long, especially rewarding loyalty, and hopefully if the person is doing a good job, which probably is if they're working there for this long, then they should have some kind of feeling of being appreciated for what they do and not earn less than they did 10 years ago.
Yeah, Yeah, like so many people that feel they have to live close by to the office, they end up having roommates, even with pretty senior sounding positions, because the cost of living just isn't sustainable. And if you're someone that is hourly or doing something like Games Crunch or thinking that you should, stick around and get the free dinner because, hey, you'll save some money, you probably don't want a super long commute and you're going to be living close by to the office as well. And like it's when you think city, at least like in Stockholm, like you think like very condensed apartment buildings, like there's like a city hub, but Irvine, it's all spread out. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's huge for a city, so you can't just say, oh, I'll live 3 towns over, because that could be like an hour plus commute because
Yep.
of how spread out everything is.
Mm-hmm. And then traffic.
um yeah, I don't understand how there's nothing in the area, but there's just always traffic there. It's
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just insane. I don't understand. It was
Is
not a
it
good time when I went there.
is it in between
Um,
like two very important places, or is it just
well,
so many
it's
businesses in one place?
well, it's a mix. Like it is between LA and San Diego, but
Mm-hmm.
like if this was on the East Coast, a town that's like a town in its position would be way away from any sort of traffic rush hour.
Mm-hmm.
But because LA has really poor traffic flow because there are mountains in the middle of LA,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess there's earthquakes, so they don't have a lot of, I don't know, tunnels. Like everything just sort of funnels into a few highways in LA, which is also by the main airport, so it creates this ripple effect with traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really go east because you run into more mountains as well. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that are trying to get into LA for work, and the public transportation is pretty poor if you live in these suburbs. And then Irvine was also developed to be really corporate, like I mentioned, all those businesses that are there. So you have a lot of people wanting to get into Irvine as well
Mm-hmm.
for work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's I also feel like a lot of people that don't have that a lot of people don't have the luxury of taking a risk and moving to Irvine, which could then impact like the diversity pool of applicants. Like if you can't afford to pull everything up and move across the country to Irvine, you may not apply to Blizzard, and it just weeds applicants out for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
Um,
that is true as well.
so something after this report came out, a lot of employees started to share more of their stories,
Mm-hmm.
and Bloomberg did another update on the situation, and we learned that some employees were talking about they were asking about fair compensation, and like they were being told that like you said, the passion people would love to work at Blizzard, they should be happy, and yeah, the compensation was lower, but they got all this, rare swag and like free game time,
Game
and
time,
that's how
way.
the compensation was, made up. That's how they stayed competitive. And like that can sound really cool, like if you're in your 20s, like, oh man, I don't really have a job and I'd love free game time, but that this isn't the real business world. Like
Yeah.
you should be paid in money, not game time. That's not how you pay the rent.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it does really feel like a lot of those jobs are just aiming at the young 20s crowd. The people who don't mind that much and are there for the passion only. And that can be bad, because having the same people work for you for a long time and making people who have been there for a long time feel appreciated and properly handled will make the business more solid. The more people who stay at the same place for a longer time, the more of a red thread the game itself will also have across different expansions,
Builds
because it's the
loyalty,
same
and
people.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like you have mentors that want to stay, you have loyalty, people feel proud of the project.
Mm-hmm.
But like it doesn't, you don't want to feel like, like if someone is going to make, twice as much money working somewhere else, like of course you'd want to take that.
Yeah.
Like, there's only, so long loyalty goes with, and it's not like the company is struggling,
Charging
like it's just
battery.
records year after year.
Mm-hmm.
Like their products are really popular. Someone else was sharing, this was anonymous, but um, people reached out to me confirming the validity of it, so I feel comfortable talking about it. Uh, this honor point system, where if you like did a lot of extra work, you could get like this something like these honor points, and then if you got enough honor points, you could like get electronics or like dinners or something. And usually when you work like lots of overtime, or you get extra money, or you get like a gift certificate, you don't get these honor points that, from what I heard,
Yeah.
are very difficult to redeem for anything because the amount required is so high to buy anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just another example of a program that maybe sounds really cool and like cutesy, but then when you view it in the context of the underpaid wages, it doesn't really, age very well.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it's using the passion of people for
Yeah.
gaming to put it in the work environment, because now it's a game, right? Collecting points and wanting to redeem things. It sounds fun. It's a game, right? Like
Yeah.
if I had that kind of system, heck, we have those systems in streams, right? You
Right.
get points for being loyal, and then like you do something. But like these people are, they're working there, and they should be taken a little bit more serious than that.
Yeah. And just to clarify something, people were very excited when the second report came out. They're like, oh, the employees are making a list of demands, and Blizzard is reading them. And it's like, wait, hold on. Like, the employees are discussing demands they want. Blizzard has not met or agreed to anything, and I think that's very important to keep in mind, because if the people think that the Blizzard CEOs are actively changing things right now, I think that hurts the movement, because they haven't done or changed anything yet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And obviously, they're very stingy with money and change, so you don't want to help them and give them inaccurate PR.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great people are working on a list of demands, especially because there's no big US union in the game industry,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing concrete has happened yet. So if you want there to be change, like, the pressure still needs to be put on. Like, no improvements have actually
Mm-hmm.
occurred as a result of this change yet. Just, I think it's really good people are aware of it and are actively discussing, and the salaries are out there. But Blizzard has not. There's been no official confirmation that Blizzard has read this document and has responded with a list of changes they're doing as a result moving forward. That still is very unclear.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything
Um,
that we can do besides for, taking part in potential discussions on like different medias? Is there anything that people can do?
hmm. I think that's that's a good point. I mean, I think just this. I mean, it's more abstract, but I would say, uh, just to be more, what's the right word? Like, to be more refined and understanding, more critical when you consume media from corporations, and to act in a way that supports the workers, and like, not just, don't buy into the corporate hype of things.
Mm-hmm.
um so
Mm-hmm.
like, this also goes down to the criticism, like, if you're saying you dislike something with Blizzard, word it in a way that's not like finding some really underpaid GM and yelling at them on Twitter.
Yeah. 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 That's not right.
Like, yeah.
It's not this
So
GM
just
that's
like,
taking the millions, guys.
right. Or it's like, well, yeah, if this person is being super underpaid, like, why are you expecting them to single-handedly, solve every QA bug on their, underpaid salary?
Yeah.
But yeah, sophisticated is the word I'm asking for. So just try to like be more sophisticated and compassionate when you um, interact with employees at Blizzard or other large corporations, and just sort of understand, like, that what
Mm-hmm.
the executives are doing can
Mm-hmm.
be different than what
Mm-hmm.
the people on the ground floor are doing,
Mm-hmm.
and who is responsible for different things if you want to express anger at something specific, or who you express support to.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to this even can trickle down to other parts of your life, like if you don't know if you want to support a corporation, maybe there's like a small business alternative you can support as well if they seem to treat employees better, whether it's like clothing or food or essentials. You can support businesses with your money. If you see someone doing something right, let them know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, with the Blizzard thing, I would just say, if keep pushing on this in respectful ways. If Blizzard suddenly drops, like a really badass cinematic the next day, don't forget this issue exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like understand that marketing is meant to distract you from some of the serious things going
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say that discussing salaries aren't illegal, but in the United States there's stigma with it, and I would encourage people to
Yeah, I think it is in
discuss
most
their
places.
salaries more.
uh,
Like it's
yeah.
really helpful. Like especially it just like so many things just come to light when people share their salaries in the industry. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, maybe that's why the CEOs don't want you to do it, because inequality is exposed. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, that's actually really
so
interesting because I think it is sort of a topic of avoiding, even in Sweden. I feel like people don't just straight up share salaries. Like you can give like an you don't even normally give an estimate. You just say like, oh, you can get by, and that's kind of it, right? But I think it is important to compare because then you see what companies are appreciating the work better, and which ones need to shape up a bit. So I guess in this situation, then what we can do is, well, first of all, being aware of this. Second of all, putting the criticism in the right places. We can't, like you said, just start shouting at this random poor GM who is already underpaid
yeah.
for not doing a good job because, well, he isn't getting paid enough to go and educate himself in whatever the issue is that he's supposed to take care of to become better at it. The less you
Keep
get
in mind
paid,
they
the
got
more
rid of
motivated you are.
right. And they got rid of so many people last year, so keep in mind all these teams are probably like very understaffed after they laid off so many people in 2019,
Mm-hmm.
which means that you can't do everything as well as you'd like.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um,
And if
but
you're
yeah, like
yourself a young person in the industry, then do be aware of this and don't sell yourself short. And it's good to go for your passion, but maybe keep your eyes open to many places, whether it's the gaming industry or somewhere else. Like look at different companies and see how the different companies treat their employees, because the more people demand, the more the companies have to also provide.
also mention remote work, like I've always been very pro remote work at Wowhead, because like you can hire people based on their skill around the world. You don't have to pay for an office, and you can there's like a lot of corporate BS you can just sort of cut through not being in an office. But
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of these corporations, you're forced to work in a very expensive city usually
Yeah.
and deal with commutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that especially in this like pandemic era, a lot of companies are realizing that there are benefits from working at home. So if you're looking for a place to apply, see what the company's policy is on working remote, because I think that a lot of companies that are fair-minded have embraced the remote model, and then I think that also leads to like more difference in opinions, like more varied skill sets. You don't have to feel like you must be this rich or comfortable to move to New York or LA. There can be people from all works of life that are just skilled at doing something. And I would also say that if you are, we talked about what to do if you're a young person, but if you are maybe like late 20s or early 30s, more in a manager position, to see if your own hiring practices or ways you motivate your employees, if they're ethical. So if you think that something you read in this Blizzard article was not very appealing, make sure you don't have something similar to honor points set up, or if an employee comes to you, help advocate for a raise. Don't be like, well, this is a cool industry. So just make sure that in your actions you are doing what you can to not further this unsavory part of corporate culture.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Hopefully that was educational for people.
Yeah.
I feel like I learned something by just talking about it as well. It gives you a little bit of
Yeah.
eye-opening feeling to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I feel strongly about as someone that, like, I've lived in several expensive places like New York and LA and Irvine, and just being like why I do not understand, like, Irvine, and why you're paying so much money to be in the middle of nowhere, and like the work-life balance just seemed really out of whack. And
Yep.
as someone that's more of a manager now, I think a lot about, like, how can I do things that actually have positive change versus just being like, oh yeah, pay people more words.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something I think a lot about.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
So,
Yeah.
but I think that's about it. I don't know if people have any questions, but we've gone through all of our notes, and Brightpaw is sitting on a wire again in the
I
corner.
got so immersed
So,
into the discussion that I didn't realize we actually covered all of them. I was just looking, I
oh,
was like, oh no, we have some more here. And I was like, wait, no, we
yeah,
covered that. And then the
yeah,
next one, and then the next one. Yeah, that was actually everything that we wanted to make sure that we covered today.
yeah.
As usual, we try to keep track of the chat here in the live stream on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube later on when it's uploaded, sadly, the live part of this is already over. If you are interested in tuning into that, we run every Monday at 10 p.m. CST and 1 p.m. PST.
Yeah.
So if you want to tune in to the stream at that point, which is on Twitch, twitch.tv/wowhead, you can also be part of the people here in the chat who are able to ask questions. And we always try our best to read all of them as best as we can, especially if they're relevant to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I see some comment. Don't blast your manager if they can't give you a raise. Not all debt were tied to just salary. Yeah, and I mean, and a lot of times, maybe even the manager doesn't really have the power either, right? But I think always opening the discussion, I think, is always good.
Like, if you are in a position where you're not at the bottom rung, like, it's true, you may not have all the power.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like,
Mm-hmm.
even though I run Wowhead, I have a boss who reports to someone else. But if you have some power,
You can influence.
it's just good to self-reflect and
Mm-hmm.
see what you can do. Like, maybe you personally can't give a raise, but you can try to advocate, like, effectively to your boss why people should get a raise. Or you can try to be fair among your employees, or if they seem like stressed about something IRL, to
Mm-hmm.
try to work with them instead of making them feel like they're being exploited for passion. Like, sometimes you can't do a lot, but just by trying, I think every little bit helps. And then as you get more power, as you get job promotions,
Mm-hmm.
then you're already on the right track to using it for to help your
For
employees
good
more.
use. And also, if you're not alone, as you sort of grow the number of people that try to do this, the more the minority becomes the majority, the more that something has to be done, right? Because if
Right.
all of these people with passion being exploited, if none of them say anything, it'll just continue, right? It's up to the people to demand something. That's the first step to open the discussion for it.
Yeah, it's not good for business. Like, you may think, oh, well, this person is getting old, like, they don't want to work overtime, I'll get rid of them. But then the replacement people may not be as skilled. They may lack maturity and experience, and it just looks bad for the business if your veterans keep going to other companies, because
Mm-hmm.
then that just helps the quality of the other business, and you are always rebuilding. And it's
Mm-hmm.
also not great for yourself, because if your company is based around 20-year-olds without family, or maybe taking care of parents or having babies, if it's all based around, like, single people with lots of energy, um what happens when you get older? Are you going to be like forced out of the company because you only made your position sustainable for someone that has no attachments? Like you don't want to be forced out of the company
Mm-hmm.
yourself as well when suddenly you need to have a more manageable schedule.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Indeed, indeed. EU game time for stream. Yeah, you guys are now getting game time for watching us because that is your job. And that's how we are we are giving that back to you. No, we actually do have a point system in this stream as well.
Yeah.
Nether shards is what it's called. And if you scroll down in the panels below, you can see how many points you need to redeem the different things. But this is not a job. This is meant to be for fun. None of you guys have to be here. You guys have the choice of being here if you want to, and not be here if you don't want to. But if you are, we give back by letting you guys earn loyalty points called Nether Shards, and you can use the Nether Shards to then redeem different things from the panel below.
I know at one point we were debating changing the name, but I guess we'll, never call it honor points now.
Oh no. I'm changing
Yeah.
it to honor points now.
Yeah, never.
Oh no.
It's probably easier to get things watching the stream than it is through the Blizzard program from what I heard about, like, how many points you needed to get something basic.
Yeah, you do not have to work for us to get these points. You just
No.
you just sit in the chat and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all you do. And then if you get enough points, you can, for example, get yourself one of these.
Yeah.
Here we go. A Wowhead rocket.
Yeah.
So that's one of the
mine?
examples of something you can get.
I think Brightpaw carried mine off. I don't see mine. Oh, it's on the floor. Brightpaw, why did you do this?
Can I
Okay,
type
keep
and
reaching.
giggle during stream? Is that okay? Yes, that is very
Yeah.
okay and also very encouraged. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I think that's it for today.
I think that's a wrap.
That is indeed a wrap. We'll be back next week again. I kind of want to show the intro again because I think it's cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let me get it. So in case you missed the beginning of the stream, we have a new introduction, and I think it's cool. So I want to play it for you guys again. So here we go. There it is. Fresh start. Yay. But yeah, a mini revamp of the show to just freshen things up a bit, and it's a quite funny clip, so it's nice. Very nice to have. And that's it from us today. Great
Brightpaw,
discussions.
do you want to come up? Come on, Brightpaw. Up.
Great
Seeing if he
discussions.
wants to jump up for the conclusion.
Happy hunters, happy druids. Who else is happy?
Yeah.
Happy wand wearers.
Happy Night Fae Covenant.
Oh, true. True.
Yeah.
And a lot of more corporate things too that we've discussed today.
Yeah.
Happy Shadow Priest, although we didn't go into much detail of that at all.
Yeah.
But apparently Happy Shadow Priest too. You can look into it yourself if you are a Shadow Priest and would like to have a deep dive in that.
The rogues finally got all their legendaries and some conduits, so I guess I think they're
Mm-hmm.
still a little sad that they're very unpolished, but it's like sort of happy rogues that they have
Okay.
stuff now.
Have happy rogues too.
Yep.
And yeah, that's where we'll leave you guys for today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching and supporting by being here. Shout out to both you guys here in the Twitch chat, and also to those of you guys who are watching from the Wowhead website on the embedded thing. Bye, guys. Bye-bye, everyone.
Or high five.
Oh, high five. Yes. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
we're good.
Mhm.
All right, I'll do it. 3, 2, 1.
Yay, we did it.
Yay. Right, Paul. Why are
Socials,
you?
yeah,
He's
don't forget
watching me from the floor.
to follow the stream, and also if you want to, you can follow the Twitter accounts of Wowhead, Perk, and myself, whichever way you prefer to follow. We also have a quick link to Stevan as well. If you scroll down slightly, you have the little banner there
He
with the
streams
accounts.
on Wednesdays whenever there's a beta build, so probably in 2 days he'll be streaming.
So you have the direct links to the Twitter accounts if you want to hear what we have got to say outside of the streams, and then we have the stream here itself. You can follow to be notified when we go live. And that's it. Until next time then.
See you next week.
Yep.
Bye.
See y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.